Hi guys, yasas que Sauté to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're making a delicious and nutritious side dish. We are making some creamed greens. Now this is so good. I'm using a combination of broccoli, spinach, and mustard greens. I love the mustard greens in this. This is a traditional Indian and Pakistani dish. I'm kind of switching it up just a little bit so that way we can use the familiar flavors that we use on this channel, but feel free to make it a little bit spicier, and I will put some alternatives on the blog post to make it more traditional. I love this, you guys. It's so full of flavor and it's also so easy to make. I'm using the Instant Pot just to cut time, but if you don't have one, you can do this on the stovetop in a big pot. It'll just take a long time. It takes a long time to break these greens down, but I love to serve this with some Halloumi cheese and some fried eggs, and I will show you at the end of the video how I put that together. Let's get started. So I'm using frozen greens today because I like to keep them in my freezer because I do make this dish a lot, and I also like to stir them into stews and stuff like that. So I'm using 2 bags of frozen mustard greens, but you can definitely feel free to use fresh greens if you want. So this is 2 pounds of them. And this does make a big batch, but it freezes well and it also stores well in the refrigerator. So everything goes in the pot. Then you need about a pound of spinach, but since these are 10-ounce bags, I'm just using 2. Honestly, when spinach cooks down, it cooks down to almost nothing. And then I have a bag of broccoli. This is also a pound. These are broccoli florets. So easy. And I have 2 jalapeños that I'm just gonna pop in there. If you don't like your food spicy, just leave them out. If you like them spicier, put some more in. So I'm just gonna add a couple of teaspoons of salt to season everything well, and some black pepper. And I'm just gonna pour in a cup of water, and I'm gonna set the Instant Pot to the Sauté setting for about 10 minutes until everything cooks down a little bit. So just give everything a nice mix and then put the lid on, set the vent to the seal position, and set the machine to pressure cook on high for 25 minutes. Then you just wanna let it naturally release for about 15 minutes. Then open up that vent and release whatever pressure is left inside, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, so now it's time to puree everything. The veggies should be really nice and soft. If you're doing this on the stovetop, then I recommend that you cook it on low heat for about an hour and a half. It does take some time for these to get really nice and soft. The spinach pretty much cooks right away. The broccoli takes a little bit of time, and mustard greens tend to be a little tough. So if you have an immersion blender, you can just use the immersion blender in here. Just take the stainless steel insert out so that way it's not continuing to cook. Also, resist the urge to fill the blender all the way up to the top. I did that last time and I had to stop a few seconds in, maybe 2 seconds in, because things started to just fly all over the place. You're gonna get burned. Just do this in 2-3 steps and you'll be fine. Let me get a little container to put this in. And don't puree this until it's smooth like baby food. You want it to have some texture to it. And then I'm just gonna put everything back into the insert of my Instant Pot. If you're not using an Instant Pot, then just leave it on the side for a few seconds because we have one final step to do before this is all ready. So now this is where all of the flavor is gonna come from. You wanna finely chop 1 onion. If you're not using an onion, you can definitely substitute about 6 or 7 scallions for this. Just thinly slice them and put them in a frying pan along with a stick of butter. A stick of butter is 4 ounces of butter. Here in America, the salted butter is not overly salty, so I like to use salted butter, but you can use regular butter and then sprinkle a little bit of salt on top of your onions. Let the butter and onions cook over medium heat for about 6 to 8 minutes or until they're nice and soft and golden. You want the onions to be nice and soft and golden. If you're using scallions, they'll cook much faster, maybe in like 3 or 4 minutes. It just depends on the heat of your stove and the pan that you're using. Then you want to go ahead and stir in 1 heaping teaspoon of grated garlic. That's about 6 to 8 garlic cloves, depending on how big the garlic is. Mix that in and then right away add 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour. Cook that down until the flour is lightly toasted, so about 2 minutes or so. Take it off of the heat and then go ahead and add it to the spinach mixture. So at this point, you can go ahead and taste it and see if it needs some more salt. That is so delicious, but definitely it does need a little more salt. I'll sprinkle in about a half teaspoon. Mix it all up, and this is gonna go back inside the Instant Pot. I'm gonna set it to the Sauté setting, and I'm just gonna let this cook for about 7 or 8 minutes so that way all of those flavors can come together. Make sure to put the lid on top of the Instant Pot. You don't have to seal it or lock it or anything like that because this will start to spatter and fly everywhere and you'll have a mess on your hands. If you're not using the Instant Pot, then you can go ahead and just do the whole thing that we just did on the stove top. You don't even have to dirty another frying pan. Once you're done pureeing all the spinach and the greens, you can use the same pot to cook your butter and onions and garlic and all of that. If you want to add a little bit more flavor to it, you can stir in to the onion and the butter once they're done cooking a teaspoon of coriander and a little bit of ground cumin. Those are really going to add some really nice warmth to the dish and it's just going to be delicious. I'm leaving it like this. I think there's enough flavor in it as is. I'm going to let this cook a little bit and then it's going to be ready to serve. So you can serve the greens as is with some bread over rice. You can fry an egg and put it in a bowl on top of the greens. It just tastes so delicious. But one of my favorite ways to make this is to put it in a little frying pan or saute pan as much as you want, and you can just cube up some Halloumi cheese. Halloumi cheese is really great because it holds its shape. It gets nice and soft from the heat of the greens, but it retains its shape. It doesn't melt into the food. But if you want something a little bit more creamy, you can add feta cheese, or you could do a combination of both. It's up to you. This is my take on one of my favorite Indian Pakistani dishes, palak paneer or saag paneer. Saag is basically mustard greens and palak is the spinach, and I use the combination of both, so it's gonna be delicious. Time for the taste test. Basically, you just cook the greens and the halloumi cheese until the cheese gets nice and soft. It takes about 6 or 7 minutes or so. Make sure to cover the pan so things don't splatter all over the place. Smells amazing. And as you can see, the cheese has softened and I'm gonna eat it with this fresh pita bread, homemade pita bread that I made just a little while ago. So delicious. So much flavor. If you want to serve something vegetarian, delicious. Or if you want to serve it as a side to any meat, I think everyone is going to absolutely love it. It is a little bit spicy from the jalapeno. Did I put jalapeno or serranos? One of those. It is a little bit spicy from that, so if you're not into spice, leave the peppers out, but definitely make this. If you want to add a little bit more richness to it and make it a little creamier, you can certainly put in a little bit of heavy whipping cream in that, or if you really want to make it a little more rich, you could put some cream cheese in there and let that melt in. It is going to make it sort of like, kind of have like a little bit of a dip consistency. The exact measurements, as always, are on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Let me know what you guys think. And if you want to learn how to make the pita bread to go with this, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.